Hey guys, and welcome to episode number 89 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman, joined by my co-host, Chris DiPietro. If you're joining us for the first time, it's great to have you, and if you've been a regular listener, welcome back. We have a lot to cover today and not a lot of time to do it. We'll look at a general overview of the NBA this week and then discuss some important topics across the association. Let's get to our content for the week. Probably one of the biggest stories this week was Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, is now considering all options for tanking, which teams are alarmingly open to nowadays. One option that he mentioned was to abolish the NBA draft and make rookies free agents, which, in my opinion, would be a horrible idea given that it would make big market teams better, and especially teams, I would think, in tropical climates like Los Angeles or Miami. The Utah Jazz and the Indiana Pacers were fined $500,000 and $100,000 respectively for sitting players that were essentially healthy. The lottery system doesn't always award the worst team with the best draft picks. For example, the Pistons have had the number 5 pick in recent years. So, Chris, tanking definitely getting out of hand in the NBA compared to other leagues. You don't usually get rewarded for it with the number 1 overall pick, but teams are basically open to doing this. And is it kind of ruining the integrity of the game? And what do you think they should do about it?
Definitely is. It's such an ugly look for the league, and it's kind of always been an issue. But I mean, you have teams like the Utah Jazz who promptly were fined $500,000 for some of the shenanigans they were pulling off in regards to their player availabilities lately. And I mean, again, that this happened before the All-Star break. Teams are starting to do this. And you're going to have plenty of teams that are just playing so many meaningless basketball games from now until April. And, probably around maybe a little less than a third of the league is going to be doing that. And it's just a really ugly look. And something has to change. And it's been a really ugly week for the NBA, I'd say. But I think it's been a pretty fun one. And obviously, not just because of the All-Star festivities, which we will get to later on, but also just the ideas people are tossing around to solve this tanking issue. And Larry, I hope you came armed with your favorite solution because I sure did.
I definitely came armed for this one. So my solution for tanking, and it might not be the greatest idea ever, but I think it's something that can get the ball rolling for teams to get out of the tanking mindset. Basically, it's like when you were a kid and you kind of get like a couple strikes from your parents. It's like first time you do it, this happens. Second time, third time, yeah, whatever. So that's how I'm going with this. If you get fined for tanking once during the season, the first strike, you are automatically not eligible for a top 3 draft pick. So the Utah Jazz and the Indiana Pacers, for example, would not be eligible for that top 3 pick. They would move to the next lowest team.
Wow,
Twice, two
that's
times,
fascinating.
2 times in the single season, you drop out of the top 10. Three,
Jeez, Larry.
I was gonna go 5, but I'm
Goodness,
like,
going hard.
I
I
was I,
like it.
I was gonna say 5, but then 10, it's like, all right, 10's pretty harsh. 3 times, if you do 3 times, well, first of all, you're a moron if you do 3 times because your pick is just tanking. 3 times, you are forfeiting your first round pick for the upcoming draft.
Wow.
So that is my solution for tanking. It is harsh, but I think at this point you need to be harsh just because of how out of hand it's gotten and how alarming it is that teams are open to tanking. What's funny is that the Utah Jazz came out recently, the owner, I believe they're owned by the Smith family, and they got fined, but then Ryan Smith tweeted that, like, oh, but we won the game, though, which is hilarious because it's like, well, you're still tanking. And Will Hardy, the head coach, was like, the reporter asked him, like, hey, man, did you think about putting, Marketing or Jaren Jackson back in? And he said no. So I think you have to go pretty harsh here. You can't just give a slap on the wrist and say, now, Johnny, stop that. You kind of have to really drop the hammer on this one. So that is my solution.
Pretty fascinating. I like the harshness of it. I guess the only real issue with that lies in how do you define a tanking violation? I think something as obvious maybe as what Utah was doing would qualify, but I think it starts to get hazy around like, okay, maybe you're like the Brooklyn Nets and you're like you really are like putting all of your best players out there, but like maybe the in-game strategy is different when you're trying to lose games, and that might kind of go under the rug compared to again the egregiousness of what Utah was doing, which was just straight up pulling their best players. They were fined, but like you said, that's kind of like a slap in the wrist to these billion-dollar NBA teams. Like, will the Jazz stop doing it? I don't know. Like, who knows? Like, I mean, I think it was 500,000. I mean, that's a whole lot of money, but like, I think the Jazz would value AJ DeBonsa or Darren Peterson or Cam Boozer over $500,000. So yeah, I think it just gets hairy in regards to what you define as like a tanking violation. But I like that. I like that. That's interesting. And here's the bottom line of all of this. You see everybody talking about this and they're messing with the incentive structure of being bad. The real problem is, as long as bad teams have a reason to see losing as a good thing, they're going to continue to find ways to game the system. And the real solution lies in punishing teams for being bad rather than rewarding them. And I think your solution kind of falls under that. I think the real honest only solution to any of this is to just punish teams for being bad rather than mess around with how can we reward teams for being bad? How differently can we do it? Man, instead of doing this, we should do this to reward teams for being bad. No, we just have to punish teams for being bad. That's how you stop them from trying to be bad. I really think that's the underlying thing of this entire discussion. But my solution, I think, does fall under that kind of solution of punishing teams for being bad. And I really did, put a lot of thought into this because I think it's a lot of fun to talk about. I really did juggle a lot of different ideas here, but I really do think my favorite solution to all of this is just straight up ripping off women's hockey. Once mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, you begin accumulating points. You get 3 points for a win. We'll call it 1 point for an overtime loss to show that, you're trying. And you'll get 0 points for a loss. And the team with the most points by the end of the season gets the number one pick. The team with the second most points gets the second overall pick. And I really like this because it gives the teams that are eliminated first, the really bad teams, it gives them more time to accumulate these points. So it's not like, oh, like a half decent team gets eliminated and the half decent team's going to be better than the Washington Wizards and they're going to rack up more points. No, the half decent team's going to get eliminated later into the season, have less time to accumulate these points, giving the Washington Wizards and the Brooklyn Nets and the Utah Jazz more time to rack up these points. And, regardless of when you get mathematically eliminated, whether that be in February or a week before the season ends, there's always reason to compete, and every game is always going to be meaningful. And I've seen some counters to this argument, like it might encourage like an early season mega tank. But first of all, it's easier to get everybody in an organization behind a late season tank where, the season started, you're halfway through it, and you kind of suck. It's easier to get the organization, the ownership behind a late season tank than an early season tank when you still have the whole season in front of you. I think it's going to be a lot harder to get people on board with that. And second of all, if you do have this mega early season tank to get eliminated super quickly and you find a way to turn it around, props to you. Like, yeah, like if you're able to turn your season around like that, like, yeah, you probably do deserve a higher draft pick. So, I think that's a really fun solution. It makes every game meaningful, valuable, regardless of whether you're competing for a championship in the one seed or the two seed, or, whether you're the Washington Wizards just trying to get Cam Boozer. I think it makes everything meaningful. I think women's hockey nailed it, even after juggling like tens of ideas. And yeah, I think that's the solution I'd roll with.
That's an interesting idea. And honestly, before you said it, my one concern was the early season mega tank, which, they would be like, all right, now we're going to tank, we're going to do all these things, and then we're going to start winning at the end of the season. Cameron Boozer, here we come. So that was my one concern. But it's an interesting idea because, once you're eliminated, then the real job starts. You can really start going after those points. The overtime loss is interesting, given that it's more of a hockey thing, but an interesting idea because it allows for more competitiveness at the end of the season. So both of these ideas are pretty good. Adam Silver has a lot to figure out if he wants to keep his job because I've been seeing a lot of people on social media calling for his head and his firing because
Rightfully so. I
people
mean,
are
yeah,
people are
this
saying
is an ugly situation.
people are saying that he's soft and the players don't respect him anymore, but it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with this. So will tanking ever come to an end, or at least will it be tamed, is yet to be seen. This episode, as promised, is another special edition of Diehlman at Halftime. We will cover All-Star Weekend, which was this past weekend and wrapped up yesterday on Sunday. We'll look at the dunk contest, the three-point contest, and the All-Star game itself, the new All-Star game, in fact. And our normal discussions and game of the week will return next week. To highlight the round robin tournament, this episode is entitled LA versus the World. So, who's raising eyebrows at the moment? All right, we're going to start off with the three-point contest. It was definitely a lights out display. Just for my own intents and purposes, I am calling this section from way downtown. The contestants for this year's three-point contest, a lot of great participants. We had Devin Booker, Con Knipple, Damian Lillard, who is making his once-a-year appearance this season, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray, Bobby Portis Jr., and Norman Powell. There were a lot of great highlights in this one, Chris. Con Knipple heated up in the first round despite just being a rookie. Bobby Portis and Tyrese Maxey eliminated themselves. Devin Booker had a round high 30 points, and Damian Lillard took out Norman Powell when he heated up at the end. Damian Lillard, as I alluded to a moment ago, has been out this entire season. He's recovering from injury, signed up for the three-point contest, and was just full on display in this one. The final round was Con Knipple, Devin Booker, and Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard took out Knipple because rookie shooting, you're going to get off to a slow start. Devin Booker came oh so close to the win. He had 23 points going into the final rack. His last rack was the money balls. The money balls are worth more points, and you can put them wherever you want. You have the two corners, you have the wings, and then straight away. He hit the first two money balls on the rack, and then he choked and missed his last three. And Damian Lillard took the win despite not playing this entire season and recovering from an Achilles injury. It's Dame's third time as the champion overall and his 3 wins in the last 4 years. Chris, it is Dame time once again in the three-point contest, taking over in LA, and I think Portland Trailblazers fans have something to be happy about.
Yeah, it was a cool moment, and it's always a fun event. This year was fun. I'm glad we're starting our All-Star discussion with probably the least controversial event because, again, like three-point contest, everyone likes the three-point contest. It's always fun to watch. And this year, you have the rookie sensation who is clearly already one of the best shooters in the league, Con Knipple, and two huge superstars in the finals. And it came down to the final shot with Devin Booker unable to tie it. And seeing Dame win was just an awesome moment when he signed back with Portland. NBA fans and especially Portland fans, I think we're really happy to see that because that's where he's built his entire career. And seeing him go back there was awesome. And it's a shame he hasn't been able to play this year and probably won't touch the court this year. But when I found out he was in the contest, I was a bit shocked. Not only because obviously he's recovering from a torn Achilles, but I thought if he was physically capable of participating in this, which he clearly thought he was, I mean, you'd think he'd be really rusty, right? Like, not playing competitive basketball in months, and being in here with a bunch of guys who have, played the entire season pretty much. You think he'd be really rusty, and he clearly wasn't. So it was really cool seeing him win. The three-point contest is the only event during All-Star Weekend that doesn't consistently feel like an embarrassment to the league. And it only seems to be getting better with Damian Lillard apparently successfully recruiting Steph Curry and Klay Thompson into the contest next year. Probably the two best shooters of all time. And I think Dame's right up there as one of the best shooters of all time. And I think Dame wants Devin Booker back in the contest next year. And I think in the DM he said four more real shooters, which isn't hard to come by. I would like to see Con Knippel back in there next year. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad we're starting with this. Good vibes. Everyone loves the three-point contest. Everyone loves seeing Damian Lillard win it. It was an awesome moment. And yeah, it was fun this year, and it's fun every year. There's really nothing that has to change about the three-point contest. But as we'll get to, there might be some things that need to change about some of the other events during All-Star Weekend, to say the least.
Yeah, I think the 3-point contest was definitely a clear display of star talent. And I think what would be interesting, could you imagine? Because the All-Star game obviously is, a young man's game. You're not going to get, like an exhibition with like the older players or anything. In the dunk contest, we're not going to see MJ, throw down dunks anymore. But could you imagine for like a 3-point contest if we got Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Dame, and then you got some of the older guys too, like maybe you get Reggie Miller and Ray Allen in there too, some of the best shooters of all time. Now that would be a sight to see. Forget the ages for a second, and Reggie Miller and Ray Allen are old, but could you imagine just the pure, I might be an old head here, but could you imagine the aura of that 3-point contest? Just some of the best shooters ever. And next year's All-Star weekend is in Phoenix, so Devin Booker would be playing on home court. That'd be something to keep an eye out for. But Devin Booker coming oh so close to that win. Damian Lillard stealing that one, getting the win. And now he gets to go back to the bench while he recovers from his Achilles injury. Just a great overall contest. And like Chris said, probably the least controversial of the All-Star weekend.
Okay, so we move on from pretty much unquestionably the best, least controversial event of All-Star Weekend to maybe the most. Where do we begin with the dunk contest? The big thing here is no one wants to do it. They only had three people that wanted to do it this year, so they actually had to go to a lab and create a player to participate, and they named him Kashad Johnson. And funny enough, he actually ended up winning the whole thing, which is just pretty crazy. But it's wild to me that no one wants to do it. And Bill Simmons said it on his podcast. Blake Griffin. The dunk contest was one of the defining moments of his career. The world doesn't think of Blake Griffin as the all-time dunker he was, if not for the dunk contest. The legendary Aaron Gordon-Zach LaVine duel. That was one of the defining moments of their careers. And we've gotten so many awesome moments out of the dunk contest. I'm confused why there's such a lack of enthusiasm from the players now in regards to wanting to do it. They pulled quite the group for the three-point contest. They pulled probably, I don't know, 8 of the 15 best three-point shooters in the league for the contest. And I mean, they don't even get close to that with the dunk contest. No one wants to do it. And Bill Simmons also alluded to this too. Why couldn't we get VJ Edgecombe in there? That would have been sick. He's probably the most exciting, bouncy young player we've seen in years, and he was just like, nah, I don't want to do it. Why? There's so much sponsorship money to be made with the dunk contest. It's crazy to me why no one wants to do it. I guess the three-point contest is a lot less demanding on the body, but I mean, you're probably doing these dunks in the gym anyway during practice. You're probably doing these crazy dunks in front of your teammates. VJ Edgecombe's probably throwing himself lobs off the backboard doing 360 dunks to impress his buddy Tyrese Maxey in practice. Why can't you sign up for the competition, go make yourself a ton of sponsorship money, increase your name value, and put on a show for the people? I don't get it. Another thing about this year's dunk contest. First off, I should probably talk about the actual dunk contest. It consisted of Lakers center Jackson Hayes, Spurs rookie forward Carter Bryant. Obviously, the lab created Kashad Johnson, who they spawned out of thin air because they ran out of guys that wanted to do it. And who else was in it? This is bad. This is bad that I can't remember. This isn't bad on me. This is bad on the league. I can't remember the fourth dude in the dunk contest. Who was it?
Jace Richardson
Jace,
of the
poor Jace
Orlando Magic.
Richardson.
of the Orlando Magic.
Poor Jace Richardson. Jace Richardson tried doing this crazy dunk and ended up slamming his head on the floor, probably giving himself CTE. It was a total embarrassment, is what it was. And poor Jace Richardson, this attitude I described that VJ Edgecombe should have. Jace Richardson embodied it. He said, "Hey, I'm a rookie. A lot of people have made their names off this dunk contest. Let me go participate." And he ends up, the most notable thing from Jace Richardson that happened during this tournament was his head bouncing off the floor. Poor guy. I mean, this was an embarrassing dunk contest, and we've had a probably 5 year streak of embarrassing dunk contests at this point. Again, I don't understand the lack of enthusiasm. Another qualm I had this year about the dunk contest, they pretty much did away with props. Besides the dude they made in the lab, he brought out E40 for one of his dunks. I mean, that was kind of cool. But like no props. I mean, I guess for the purist fan that wants real, just high quality dunks, just pure feats of athleticism. Like, okay, this was your dunk contest, but I don't care. I want to see people jumping over Kias. I want to see people blowing out cupcake candles. That's awesome. Why did we do away with props?
Jumping over Taco Fall.
Yes, like bring out Taco Fall. He went crazy during the celeb game. He's in LA. He's in Inglewood. Just tell him, hey man, like just come out. All you gotta do is stand here, maybe hold the ball on top of your head, something like that. They just did away with props. Like what? Why? Their props are awesome. So, that's another thing why that's another issue I had with it. But really, I mean, I think we all kind of know what the big fix here is with the dunk contest. I think it's the only fix here, and that's to just take the in-season tournament route and just dole these guys out a bunch of money. They clearly put a ton of money into the production of this thing. And not just the dunk contest, kind of the All-Star weekend in general. I mean, it's like you see pyrotechnics going off in the arena, you see all these lights going crazy all the time. How about we cut the fund for the pyrotechnics and we give it to these guys to win the dunk contest? That'll make a guy like VJ Edgecombe saying, like maybe I should go put on these dunks that I'm very capable of doing but don't want to do for some reason. Maybe that will kind of entice a player like him to go out and do it. Maybe that'll entice a Ja Morant. Maybe that'll entice a Zion Williamson, some players who probably aren't going to get big contracts again because they're not separate discussion, but money's the answer here. You pay these guys and you'll see a lot more of them come out for the dunk contest, I think. But, overall, we'll get to the success the actual All-Star game had this year. But the dunk contest, on the contrary, just continues to be a total embarrassment, and it's sad.
So I named this section Slammin' and Jammin'. The dunk contest had its ups and plenty of downs. The judges were some NBA dunking legends. We had Brent Barry, Corey Maggette, Dwight Howard, Dominique Wilkins, and Julius Dr. J. Irving. What was interesting that I noticed was that Kashad Johnson, despite winning the whole thing, was pretty much dancing and vibing the entire time between
That
dunks.
probably got him some points. I think that's the reason
Yeah,
he won
that that
because he brought the vibes.
yeah, he was like dancing no matter what. The only time he wasn't dancing when he was actually in the air dunking. Yeah, Jackson Hayes, watching that first dunk, I was like, you got to be kidding me right now. He literally just ran up and dunked the ball. There was no pizzazz, no nothing. Jace, very meh dunks. The E40 thing was a nice touch because he is from the Bay Area. Carter Bryant had some interesting ones as well. Kashad got some 50s. Bryant got some 50s, I believe. And what was interesting, Carter Bryant nearly had a chance to win with a between the legs off the backboard reverse jam, but then he choked at the end by running out of time. There's a timer for the dunk contest. I forget if it's like a minute and change or whatever, but it's not like, oh, you have all day. You got to dunk it or that's it. So he just simply ran out of time. He waited. I think he waited too long or he was taking too many attempts and he just ran out of time. So Kashad Johnson, grown in the lab, got the win over these. These aren't even like A-list players anymore. It's not even B-list players. Maybe not even C or D. We're talking
What
like,
would you call Kashad Johnson?
well, he's in his own category, but then you get like
Is he like a P tier player or maybe
Jack
an L tier player because again they made him in a lab because they ran out of dudes? What is he?
Jackson Hayes definitely in the F tier.
Yo, shout out Carter Bryant. He's like a D tier. Jace Richardson, like D tier, like I respect those dudes, like good basketball players. Yeah, but Jackson Hayes, you got to go down there, and Kashad Johnson just one of one. I mean, this guy literally just appeared out of thin air.
Yeah, so the dunk contest has been getting a little bit worse over the years, and it's surprising to see just because of the legends we have in the dunk contest. Vince Carter in 2000 literally broke the dunk contest with his awesomeness. 2016, Aaron Levine, I'm sorry, I was going to say Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Gordon and Zach Levine is one of the all-time greats. What was funny, I was actually watching the highlights from the 2016 dunk contest yesterday, and some of the top comments on that video were, "Who's here after the 2026 dunk contest?" or "Who's here after I need to like wash my eyes out?" or after watching this year's dunk contest. Just really not something that people look forward to now. And you're right, it probably has to be incentivized to get people interested. John Morant versus Zion Williamson would be legendary, despite them probably not getting big contracts anymore. Aaron Gordon, he's not going to do it again because he got robbed twice after
And his
Dwayne.
hamstrings falling off the bone.
Yeah, and then Dwayne Wade thinks that everything he does is a nine. So yeah, Aaron Gordon ain't going back there anytime soon or ever. Zach Levine has his trophies. I mean, it's gotten to a point now. Look, Mac McClung, he three-peated the last couple years. He did not participate this year. Mac McClung, the fact that he was in the G League, some of the dunks he was throwing down were absolutely filthy. Like the one, I think it was his first time that he won. He threw down with his high school jersey on. He did a 540 dunk. Like he was feeling like he was spinning forever. And like the fans knew it was over. He did the 540. It was just over. He jumped over Akia. He jumped over Shaq. I think he jumped over Evan Mobley on a platform too. Like he could jump for days. And the fact that you had a G League player winning the dunk contest almost by default the last 3 years, and now you're getting guys like Jackson Hayes in the big 2026. It's just been so downhill from years past. And I think Vince Carter was there at All-Star Weekend. And what is he thinking? Or Jace Richardson, his dad, Jason Richardson, was a dunk contest participant. What is he thinking? Like,
They're probably thinking, who the hell is Kashad Johnson?
I mean, were you the one that said like you didn't even know who Carter Bryant was recently?
Okay, I knew Carter Brown. I think that was our boy Trist said he didn't know Carter. I don't know. Maybe I'm dissing Trist. Yo, Trist, if you're watching, bro, I'm sorry. No, someone didn't know who Carter Bryant was, and I called them out on their disrespect.
I don't
Uh,
know who that was, but
Carter Bryant's a G, but yeah, Kashad Johnson, dude, like that dude was not real 2 weeks ago. That guy didn't exist.
no.
Like whatever college they claimed he went to, like that's just total BS. Like he's not a real human being.
You just look at like the judges here. Dwight Howard, is Superman. Dr. J like defined the NBA back in like the 70s. Dominique Wilkins, his literal nickname is the human highlight reel. Some of these absolute legends, and then you look at this lineup and say, Adam Silver, what the hell are we doing, man?
You say, who the hell is Kashad Johnson?
Yeah. Do
Yo,
Heat
my bad,
fans
Kashad. Oh, my bad, dude.
do Heat fans even know who Kashad Johnson is?
I don't think so. I don't think anyone did.
Yeah, but it's just something that needs to be fixed. The 3-point contest, I don't think, like as we said, there's really no controversy just because it's just shooting the ball. You're getting the best players. The dunk contest, I think players don't want to injure themselves. And, it takes work. It takes work to come up with these dunks. 3-point contest, you're just putting the ball in the hoop. Dunk contest, you got to come up with something creative and, really wow the judges and really earn that 50. So definitely something that needs to be looked into. I thought there were some good dunks, but there were some that were not so great. And we'll see how that works out and see if they can fix that for next year in Phoenix. Can't wait to see that lineup. I don't know. We're probably going to see some G Leaguers and
I can wait.
maybe Adam Silver will don the jersey and say, you know what? It's time for me to take matters into my own hands. It's
Bust down a
time for
trampoline.
me. Yeah, Adam Silver's going all out or something. So, or Anthony Edwards, man. What if we got Ant? That'd be
Oh my God, that'd be sick, dude. Get
filthy.
Ant, get Ja, get Zion, offer him a mil each to participate, give 5 mil to the winner, cut the pyrotechnics. Like, come on, dude.
Get
We need all these
Wemby,
pyrotechnics.
get Ant, and we'll have ourselves a great dunk contest. All right, let's get to the grand finale here, which I have traditionally called in Dealman at halftime, the main course, and that is the All-Star game itself. And the All-Star game has had a changing format the last couple years as the NBA is trying to iron out a format that the players will care about and actually be competitive because the All-Star game has gotten worse over the years. No defense is played. Scores are through the roof. A couple years ago, the final score was like 211 to 186. And I think Adam Silver saw that and said, it is absolutely enough at this point. And what made this tie into something that's going on right now is the Winter Olympics. And I think they were trying to get something with that. And obviously, you also have the 250th anniversary of America happening later this year. So the NBA decided that we're going to do a round robin tournament for the All Star game instead of just one game with four quarters. We had three teams competing in this round robin. We had Team Stars, Team Stripes, and Team World. Two teams of American athletes, and then one team of athletes from around the world. And it didn't have to be you're just from, like Luka Doncic from Slovenia or Serbia for Nikola Jokic. Like Carl Anthony Towns, for example, was on Team World, and he has roots from the Dominican Republic, despite the fact that he's from New Jersey. So that's kind of how it was broken down. You had this round robin tournament, and each team would play each other once. And then, in the event of a three-way tie after the third game, point differential was the tiebreaker, and then two teams would face off in the final. Each game was only 12 minutes. So basically, it was as if you're playing four separate games to equate to one actual 48-minute NBA game. Chris, honestly, a lot of great action. I'm a fan of this new format. I don't think you were necessarily as enthused as I am. The first game, we had Stars and World, went to overtime. So already the format was very competitive, went to overtime, and the way overtime worked was first to five, just 5 points, that's all you needed. Scotty Barnes ended the first game with a dagger at the 3 point line. Game two went the same way, went down to the wire. De'Aaron Fox hit a triple to give Team Stripes a win. At this point, it was Stars 1-1. Team Stripes was 1-0, and World was down 0-1. Game three, probably the best one of them all, was Kawhi Leonard went nuclear for Team Stripes with 31 points in just 12 minutes of action. He went pretty much, it was like an 11 or a 15-0 run by himself. He was setting the rim on fire. He was that hot. Kawhi hit a step back three for the win, and Team World was eliminated after game three, which set up game four, Stars and Stripes. Because, of course, in America's 250th anniversary, you have to have Stars and Stripes leading the way. Stars blew out Stripes. The final score of the final game was 47-21. It was not even close. The Stars with a 12-1 run to start, and Kawhi just didn't have it as he did in game three. But overall, defense was played for all the games. Players were hungry to win. And then Anthony Edwards was named the NBA All-Star Game Kobe Bryant Most Valuable Player. Chris, a lot of action, a lot of defense, and a lot of excitement for this new round robin tournament.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I think you're right in saying I'm probably a little less enthusiastic about the format than you were. I think in a perfect world, it's still just East-West, how it's always been, and the players actually try. But obviously, looking at how that format was starting to look very grim for a little bit, I'm glad they changed some things up, and it might have taken them about 20 tries here. But it looks like they found something that might work here. Like you said, there was a lot more physicality in this game. There was a lot more intensity. There was defense being played. It was really cool watching Kawhi go off. I mean, that was almost like a surreal experience. It felt like we were watching a vintage Kawhi. I mean, he's been playing amazing this year, but
Fouls were called in the
yeah,
All-Star game. The refs actually went to work today.
yeah, I mean, shockingly, it was a pleasant surprise, I thought. But I think, what has to be said about all of this is how Wemby set the tone in this one. And if it wasn't for Wemby, I don't know if we would have seen half of the intensity we saw. And I really love his perspective on it all. He was asked about it in his presser, why he decided to kind of turn it up when most, if not all, the other players kind of took a back seat and kind of just treated it like a morning shoot around. And he said, like this is the game we love. It's the least we can do to just try. And I love that perspective because not only is it fun for us as fans, but it really takes, these players who are the best in the world at their sport and it ignites something within them. When they see Wemby trying, they want to try. And you have the pinnacle of basketball players really trying to win games here. Maybe, it's not like all of them were going 100%. I think some of the older guys were, treating it how they always treated it, but I really think the young guys, they had that spark in them to really, put forth at least some level of effort. And it was fun to watch. I enjoyed watching it. I was fully expecting another attempted format change flop here, but it clearly wasn't. And it showed in the ratings. The game averaged 8.8 million viewers, which was up 87% from last year, which so the views nearly doubled here in this year compared to last year. And it was also the most amount of views it had since 2011, 15 years ago. So you can't argue that. It definitely was, at least to some degree, a success here. A lot of people really liked it. Again, I'm not too, thrilled about the format, and the round robin style. Like, I would love to just have East versus West, traditional, standard, and the players actually try. But again, with the way the games were starting to look, something had to change. They changed it. It took them a couple years to find something that might stick here, but you can't not call it a success what we saw. But really, the only thing I'm curious about seeing here is whether this success, this intensity, this effort displayed by the players, I wonder how much of this was fueled just by the general outrage for the game that's been displayed in recent years. And I'm wondering how they're going to look coming off a year where the game was actually received well. Because, it's been years now, people saying like the game's not even worth watching and no one's coming to it. And I think that might have played a role. We don't know how large of a role, but I think it definitely played a role in what we saw in this game. And I'm curious to see, I think they're definitely going to run back this format next year. I think you have to because of the success it had. But I'm wondering to see how much of this was the format, how much of this was Wemby setting the tone, and how much of this was related to the outrage about the game. And, maybe coming off of a year of success, maybe players are going to take a step back, just like they had been doing in years prior and not really try as hard. So I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic to keep an eye on moving forward. But I mean, there's no argument that this was a success. The format was a success. It was fun. It was energetic. Even down to like the warm up outfits. Like they were dope. Like the NBA did a lot right here. And you have to give them credit for that. It was a fun game. We'll see how it plays out for the following years, but yeah, I mean, it was a fun game.
Yeah, and really, you had like really close games. The first three games, two of them were decided by 3 points. The middle one was decided by 2 points. And then, of course, like I alluded to earlier, the final was a blowout by Team Stars. But yeah, very competitive game. And I think Adam Silver had just had enough. I remember when he was presenting the award to Anthony Edwards, just like thanking Los Angeles for hosting the games this year. He thanked the players. He said, something along the lines of like, thank you guys for like really putting in the effort or competing this year. Like, we really appreciate it. I bet he's very happy with how the game went. Seeing that a couple years ago, both teams almost scoring 200 points, he was probably like fuming just seeing the lack of defense and players chucking up. Like we saw in years past, Damian Lillard was literally pulling up from the logo. He was pulling up from the half court line and just sinking them. And, no one's contesting that, obviously, regardless, because who guards from half court unless you're Steph Curry? But yeah, definitely an entertaining game. Wemby really set the tone. Anthony Edwards had some good moments. Kawhi turned into a robot in game three, just really took over for Team Stripes. And I think this was a clear display of America just because Stars and Stripes in the final game. Team World had some good players. I think Jokic and Luka were pulled early, just trying to get them out of there. You don't want to injure them. But Wemby really he showed that he cared too, because he was visibly upset after game one because the defense, they left some shooters open. They were closing in on the paint. They left a shooter open, and Wemby had to kind of teleport to the 3-point line to try and contest it. And of course, they ended up losing. So I was actually surprised Team World lost any of the games just because of all the talent. You look at them and say, oh my gosh, you have Wemby, you got Luka, you got Jokic. Is just borderline unfair, and they really took over. So I applaud the NBA for trying this format, and yeah, I think there's no choice but to run this back next year and just see how it works. So after the LA All-Star game this weekend, it'll be the Phoenix Suns' turn next year to host. Is it too early to start the countdown clock, Chris?
Definitely. I won't be starting it until maybe a week prior.
All
But
right.
hey, I was encouraged by some of the things I saw this weekend. Okay. So I give credit where credit's due. Shout out Adam Silver. He found something that might have worked here. But that's not to excuse the just embarrassment of the dunk contest and what it continues to be. And just, I think the ethics surrounding creating a player in a lab to compete with Kashad Johnson. I think that's probably one of the most slept on stories of this weekend. But we went into plenty of detail about Mr. Johnson and his humanity and legitimacy as not only a dunk contest participant, but a human being in this episode. But yeah, credit to Adam Silver. It was a fun weekend. It was fun to just throw on, and I will be looking forward to it at some point. Maybe not for a while, but yeah, fun weekend overall. Can't complain.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow the podcast accounts, Chris and me, on social media. The three podcast accounts on Instagram, TikTok, and X or Twitter are under at Diehlman at half. My personal X and Instagram are at Larry Diehlman. Chris's personal X and Instagram are at Chris Dippy. All seven handles are in the description on Buzzsprout, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, although you can find Dealman at Halftime on major podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, the main podcast website is on Buzzsprout. The website URL is dealmanathalftime.buzzsprout.com. Feel free to send a comment by using the Send Us a Text button located in each episode's bio. With the exception of Apple Podcasts, the text option is available on Buzzsprout and all of the major platforms. Your comment could end up in the fan mail section of the Buzzsprout website. And don't forget to spread the word about Dealman at Halftime. Next week, we are going back to our normal weekly discussions and game of the week, so we'll get right back to it and begin the second half of the season. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.